What's cracking, everybody? XehrFelrose here, bringing you some Pokemon Go Battle League content. Well, are you like me? Are you tired of playing the Love Cup and the Master League? I am. I know you probably are too, so I'm looking forward to the new rotation coming to the Go Battle League in a day or so. We're going to post this on Monday, rotations on Tuesday, and we're going to have Great League back for about 2 weeks, I believe, and we're going to enjoy it because, man, I just need to get back into Great League. I'm tired of Master League and Love Cup right now. Anyway, so we're going to go through my 5 teams that I think are going to do really well in the Great League meta, things that you can try. And then we're also going to take a look at a really nice little cheat sheet that you can use if you're ever down on your luck, not having a great time. You just need, like, maybe you just need a fresh set, a team, something new to try. You can go to this pvpoke.com training analysis page. You can get there by going up here to train and hitting top performers. You can't see my mouse, but you know, hopefully you can see it, and it'll take you to this page where you can see the top performing Pokemon as well as some top performing teams. This is where I can go sometimes if I'm, you know, just not sure what to run and I'm trying to look for what's doing well. So the top team here, we're going to be using Malamar, Diggersby, and Toxapex for this first team here, as I can get it on the screen. This is going to be the current top performing PvPoke team, which it looks very flexible in the way that you've got Malamar on the lead, which is a very strong core breaker to so many teams. And then you've got the Diggersby Toxapex core in the back. Diggersby being an incredibly strong pick, the best currently performing Pokemon in the meta. And this team also gets some great scores on PvPoke. It has a very strong coverage into the meta. It is a balanced team, so you're not going to be doing something like safe swapping into Diggersby to try and lure out some sort of counter to Toxapex. No, instead what we're going to be doing is you're going to be playing out those Malamar leads, trying to get a good alignment in the back line as you have the Toxapex Diggersby core, which is a fairly alignment dependent sort of team here. But regardless, there are going to always be some things the team's going to struggle with. I could certainly see this team struggling with a driftblim in the back. Driftblim has been a good core breaker lately. I like it a lot. We'll see a little bit of it later. But Galarian Moltres also could be kind of a problem. But everything else on this list is like Ariados, Gliscor, not super common at this point in time. And then as far as the rest of this team goes, you have an answer to something in this format. So this is a really interesting and really strong team. A lot of bulk in the back as well. So sometimes you can just out-bulk opponents' teams. But let's take a look at another team here in the Great League that I like this end of the season. It's going to be Azumarill double, well, not ice, but because you don't have to use the Dugong. In this case, I grab the Diggersby. That's your safe switch. You're using that as a way to try to lure out a fighting type. Now, grass types are also in this meta, so if you're expecting or you're afraid of other grass types, you can substitute out the Diggersby for a Dugong if you're trying to use that safe switch Dugong to pull out the fighters and the fires and things that would be able to beat the Alolan Sandslash, so that Azumarill can clean it up, get rid of it, and then hopefully Alolan Sandslash can sweep your games. You could also honestly flip this team around, put Alolan Sandslash in the lead, Azumarill in the back, and use a safe switch of something like Feraligatr or Kanto Marowak, something that would be drawing out those grass types for Azumarill and not have to worry about them in the late game. The team incredibly strong on PvPoke, has a lot of good play in this meta, and you know, Diggersby would turn it into a little bit more balanced, whereas if you were using for Dugong, you would definitely be using this as a strict ABB sort of team, whereas you're using Dugong as your safe switch in neutral or poor leads to draw out the answer to the Alolan Sandslash, again, so it can sweep. We talked about that just a minute ago. But that's the kind of strategy you're going to be using behind this team. And overall, into this meta, the team has really no hard on paper this team gets beat by any one thing. Like, the things on this list, all the way from Walrein to Breloom, don't exist in the current Great League meta, except maybe one out of every 50 games you might see one of these things. So I wouldn't be too worried about that. You have a lot of play into the meta, and Sandslash is a really strong core breaker that some people have just completely forgotten about. Let's take a look at another team here in the Great League. I'm going to be putting in my legend team from this season, Corviknight, Azumarill, and Shadow Annihilate. And honestly, if you want to, you can check out the video we hit legend with. Using that Shadow Annihilate with counter as the safe switch is so freaking deadly in this meta. The ability for it to just ramp up with Rage Fist and go for increasingly boosted counter damage in neutral matchups just makes it a force to be reckoned with. And there have been games where the Annihilate almost solos the team or sets me up so that I don't really have to worry about 2 of their Pokemon in some cases. And I use my Annihilate with Ice Punch, not Close Combat, so that's a preference, but I think it's a better one in any case. But We have Azumarill in the back as our, our closer. And if you don't want to use Corviknight, some of you may find it underwhelming. I honestly find it underwhelming. So you could use, and something that I've actually enjoyed even more so, which is going to be a bonus for those of you who are watching the video and not just skipping through all the teams, is I've recently put Forretress in the lead. I don't have a Shadow, just a regular one of this team, and it was a phenomenal switch for Corviknight. So putting Forretress in the lead on this team is also going to be really strong. It was extremely good for me in the previous Great League rotation. I actually did a video on it if you'd like to go check it out. Everything except for the coverage, which is Great League, is a D, but really strong coverage into the meta here if you're using Corviknight. Does a lot of core breaking, especially when it had first come out. Be a lot of people trying to run things like Wigglytuff and, Mud Slappers, and then we would have something like, Toxapex and, some grass type, things that would be core broken by Corviknight. So they do really well here. Forretress also extremely strong with this team. Galarian Corsola is a bit of a problem, and Charjabug, like electric in the lead in general, especially Charjabug, is going to be a bit of a pain for this team. But again, I think I found the Forretress to be a little bit easier to handle things with in general because of its rock and ground coverage. We do want to use Rock Tomb on your Forretress, by the way, with Volt Switch and Earthquake if you do one. Let's take a look at number 4 here on my list of teams. And this is the team that almost took me to Legend. This is a team I got from my buddy Greg, and he took this team to Legend with a non-Shadow Driftblim. I was running it with a Shadow Driftblim, so honestly, dealer's choice there. Either one's fine, but the Corsola being your sweeper here, this thing is, by goodness. I built my IVs on my Corsola are not amazing. It's like a 4, 11, 15, 4, 12, 15, something like that. So got some attack weight, but what I've gotten out of that thing is just, it is so bulky and it is stupid good because Astonish is a strong fast move in this meta. And if you can use Driftblim to, pull out those counters to ghost types, you're going to be in a good spot. And Wigglytuff is also just having, as much as I despise seeing Wigglytuff on the field of battle, it was extremely strong against the meta in the time that I ran this team, and this team got me up to about the 2900s when I ran it. So you might be able to get some good mileage out of it as well. Most of the Pokemon that core break this entire team don't really currently exist in the meta, and if they do, they're very few and far between. So I think this team could do well. If you don't have a Corsola, you could use a Kanto Marowak or another ground type, like you could use Gastrodon as well. There's certainly some other things that you can use here in place of the Corsola, because I do recognize not everybody's going to have it. With that being said, though, let's take a look at the last team on the list here. That's going to be Annihilate, and it could be double ice, double steel, whatever you want to do. It does work well with Dugong and Steelix, as they're very flexible. And if you have a Steelix, if you have a Shadow, I would definitely use it. The Shadow Steelix is just, the damage with Thunderfang is just so much more noticeable. But Dragon Tail is also going to be okay, but I prefer Thunderfang because that makes Steelix a better anti-flyer, whereas most of the ground types Annihilate can handle. And you don't have to run a Shadow Annihilate in this team. But again, my experience with the two of them will tell me that the Shadow is going to be my preference now going forward. So Dugong is also just a really strong safe switch, and this entire team completely dunks on Corviknight if you're looking for something that can do that. This team is a good team to do that with. So we're using Dugong as our safe switch to pull out the fighters, and then using Annihilate to hopefully dispatch of the fighters when we let Steelix loose on the rest of the team with shields and bulk and Shadow Thunderfangs and things that just don't seem fun. Again, another team that Corsola seems to do well. I seem to be picking teams that are doing very badly into Corsola, but that being said, though, Corsola is not nearly as common as I would have thought it would have been, especially, well, it's probably because it's one of the most inaccessible Great League Pokemon, but let's not talk about that as if it's an actual issue or anything, because it is. But it's just such a good bulky option, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't beat it. It's just a bit difficult with some teams. But for Alligator, also going to do kind of well into this team if you can't get the Steelix or the Annihilate to take it out. But again, this is all assuming the one shield scenario. I've seen this team in action, especially running something like Bastiodon over the Steelix if you're nasty, and then you could be using even a Licky or just something else that could be a good fighting type lure that's pretty safe. But other than those Pokemon, like I could see Malamar. I see a Golurk every once in a while. Like, there are things that do beat most of the things on this team, but it doesn't mean that you can't play out of it with a team effort. Just because it loses all three Pokemon individually don't beat superior doesn't mean you can't beat a superior team and become the superior person or trainer. I had to get there. It took a second, but we got there. Delivery was spot on, and you know it. Yeah, I wouldn't be super worried about most of that stuff, because Annihilate and the 2 shields is just really good at cleaning up some of the things that harm the backline and vice versa. So you have a lot of flexibility with this team. And honestly, that's going to bring it to a close for today's video, guys. As always, I appreciate y'all hanging out with me. Hopefully this wonderful Monday has been productive, and it's going, you know, going to be going back to Great League soon. I'm very excited, because I really don't want to, like, I don't enjoy Master League. I have the roster for it, but I can't win. I can't. I'm no good at it, man. But that being said, we're going to get out of here for the day. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. You have a good one. Bye-bye.